earlier I was saying, when people say thank you, or that was great you did that, well, we also hear some other things. And one of the things that people will say is, what do I get for my taxes? You get a fire department. And that's not... So thank you very much, Mark. We're looking forward to the centennial celebration in Red Hook. And I also want to say now that we are not going to be doing our usual Tivoli Community Day that we've done the last 4 years in the beginning of August. We're going to take all that festive energy and we are going to send it into this double fire department centennial. So that's where the party's going to be. That's where we're going to focus all our energy on that event. But I have here the photograph of last year's Community Day. So when we break later for cake, you can check it out. My fellow Tivolians, thank you for giving me a third opportunity to serve this village as mayor. Thank you to the 106 voters who came out to the firehouse and exercised their civic rights and performed their civic duty. While our elections are repeatedly uncontested, that does not diminish the importance of that little contract between the voters and those elected. Especially, every vote, especially in an uncontested election, has great value for those of us who put ourselves forward to do the very important and necessary work of running the village. In an uncontested election, we don't need your votes to beat the other guy, which is sort of more typical. We need your vote to know you support us, because there are hard hours and hard days, and we need to know that you're there for us, and you want us doing these jobs. We need your vote to know you support us, and you need to cast your vote so we know you are engaged and watching us and care about our performance. Outside of Tivoli, we've gotten very used to voting being a horse race between who wins and who loses, and how often do people complain of having to vote for the lesser of two evils? That's a sad feeling, unfortunately, that we all know. In Little Tivoli, a vote can be what every vote, local or national, should be: a positive expression of support for the performance, promise, platform of a particular candidate. If you come out and vote in Tivoli, where there is no horse race, you may not be choosing your candidate. I mean, you could choose to stay home, but you are choosing to show your support and putting that candidate on notice that the citizenry is engaged, which is always a good thing if we want to have responsible and responsive elected officials. Half of Americans do not vote. No wonder we have so many officials who do not seem as responsible and responsive as we'd like. I wish I could say as we deserve, but if half of us don't vote, then maybe we get what we deserve. So please, never think that in Tivoli's uncontested elections your vote does not matter. It does. It matters to you. It matters to us. It matters to the strength of self-government in our village. In our election last month, we saw a change on the village board. Trustee Chris Murphy finished his term, and I would like us all to thank him right now for 2+ years. Chris, I'll miss you very much on the board, but I know how to get to Red Hook, and we'll be in touch. So. And Tivoli, I think we should give another welcome to the village board, to Angela Cole, who's going to do a great job. That is your Village of Tivoli hat.
Thank you, Mr.
Wear it with pride.
Thank you.
Not available in stores. I heard some interesting statistics recently, and I didn't look for these. I caught them on the radio over the last couple of weeks. And if you take all the seats in the state legislatures across the country, women hold 28% of those seats. In the U.S. House, it's about 25%, and in the Senate, it's 23%, and that's very recent. I mean, that's like in the last couple election cycles. Well, on the Tivoli Village Board of Trustees, women hold 80%. I can't do my math genie, it's just not here tonight. Draw your own conclusions. I am grateful to be returned to the mayor's desk because from there I'm able to do more good work for Tivoli. But I'm well aware that the mayor, and Masood, we're on the same wavelength because this is my image as well. The mayor is the tip of an iceberg. And if I and my work did not rest on this mighty iceberg, I'd be just a tiny ice cube, small, ineffective, and sure to melt away in short order. So I would like to thank the rest of our mighty iceberg. Everyone who works in Tivoli, whether you are elected, appointed, employed, and especially if you volunteer, the board, office staff, DPW, consultants, various boards, and committee members. I won't go through the list name by name, but you know who you are, I know who you are, and I appreciate what you do. It takes all of us to move the village forward. So let's have a round of applause for everyone who works for Tivoli. To all my colleagues in village government, we have a remarkably pleasant and supportive work environment where together we take care of people's business and we manage to enjoy ourselves and have some laughs as we do. It is always a pleasure to come into this building, this amazing building, and tackle the day's business with you. To be clear, the business isn't always a pleasure. Sometimes it's a royal pain in the asparagus, but those of you who work for and with the village truly are a pleasure, and I thank you. Tivoli has traveled far in recent years, but it's not just the distance we've traveled, it's also, importantly, the direction. Tivoli has been marching confidently, eyes open, strides sure, head tall, towards its goals, towards a better future. We face our challenges, steadily surmount them, and we keep moving forward. I've got 3 little pictures to paint for you to illustrate this. 3 vignettes of what this village can do and how we do it. They are depictions of actual projects. Hey, Pete. Glad you made it, buddy. They're depictions of actual projects, but also each is a metaphor for what I'm talking about, striving towards our goals patiently, purposefully, successfully. The first picture is of this building. It is on the National Register of Historic Places, the only structure in the village to bear that distinction. It was restored and turned into Village Hall in 1994, but by 2015, after over 2 decades, it was getting a little beat because we make good use of our wonderful Watts de Peister. So the board went at it bit by bit, year by year, what we could afford. In 2015, we replaced the front steps and rail. We painted the bathroom. In 16, we fixed the walls, all the cracks, and painted the walls in the clerk's office and courtroom. In 17, the mayor's office and zoning office. And this year, in 2018, we did the hallways on 3 floors. 17 or 18. And this year, like last week, we just finished this room. So this building, this year, there's one last thing that we need to do inside this building. So help me, I promise, this year, on the 1st and 2nd floor, new carpets. That's for Michelle too, back there. And the interior of our Watts de Peister Hall will finally be in handsome repair and worthy of the citizens of Tivoli. Now that's a 5-6 year effort, but we are there. Second picture, the board has been working on another vision that goes back to at least 2013. A good, repaired, broad, clear, uncluttered sidewalk from the laundromat to Clay Hill Road. 100 feet were done in 2013, 180 in 2016, overgrown hedges were pulled out. 120 feet along with the bridge in 17, 260 feet in 18, and as you have seen driving in on Broadway, it was finished yesterday. We did the last 200 feet, we made it to Clay Hill Road. Another steady, systematic success, a 6-year effort. And my third picture is our biggest and greatest, but it was handled in the same fashion. Frame the vision, see the goal, work your way to it. Water and sewer. In 2014, Tivoli applied for a grant to evaluate the condition of the systems. In 15, we won that $85,000 grant. In 16, completed the evaluation. 17, we reviewed and responded to the reports and held community discussions to weigh the decision whether or not to transfer to the Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority. In 2018, we held community discussions to locate and design the next water tower, and later in 2018, we applied for and won $3.8 million in state funding to pay for much of what these systems need. That is $3.8 million that is not going to come out of our bills. This summer, by July or August, the Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority will take over operation and maintenance of our water and sewer systems. The June water bill will be the last that comes from the village. The September billing will come from the DCWWA. Throughout this summer, final engineering is being done on the new water tower. It will go out to bid in late fall, early winter. Ground will break next spring, and by late fall 2020, Tivoli's new water tower will be standing, repairs to the rest of the water and sewer systems underway. After decades, there is a plan to address and resolve Tivoli's aging infrastructure, and it will be executed. Again, strategic, systematic, successful. I could have picked any number of other projects, other paths of progress that have been unfolding in our village this year. And they would have showed the same process. Tivoli moving forward, incremental, but inexorable. Our village authoring its own success. While we execute many physical projects, repair sidewalks, maintain a building, organize fun stuff like the egg hunt, which is going to be this Saturday, street painting, Winterfest, there is ultimately only one project that we work on here in Tivoli. One project in which all the other projects culminate. And that project is community. Community is a project, just like a physical one. It needs maintenance, it needs investment, it needs to be cared for, it needs to be named overtly, cultivated intentionally, and celebrated regularly, which we're pretty good at. If so, it flourishes. If not, it withers. Community doesn't just happen, it has to be chosen, constructed, and maintained. And if you think community is a silly, schmaltzy, Pollyanna abstraction, I invite you to think about the state of our nation today. Increasingly fragmented, polarized, intolerant, impatient, differences of identity and political persuasion are becoming clannish badges which divide us from one another, leading to alienation between those who are, in fact, fellow citizens. So many labels are being flung around, embraced by this side, hurled at that side, and the one label that matters most is getting lost. That label is fellow American citizen. When I look out at our nation, when we look out at our nation, we can see what the weakening of community looks like. Community is real and it matters. We are so fortunate in Tivoli. Our community project is healthy and it has many champions. So many residents work to contribute to the project. And yes, I know it's easier on a smaller scale, but we still can't take it for granted. Community doesn't mean we're all mushed together, nor does unity mean a bland conformity, nor does it mean we agree on everything. I don't think this village will ever be in danger of a homogeneity of opinion. Tivoli, we all agree on everything. We can laugh at that because we are that community. That's exactly why we can laugh, because we all identify with this village. We are people with a common interest living in a particular place, and we are further fortunate because the foundations of our community were laid before we got here, and we didn't have to create all this from scratch. Others before us got this community built and going, and I've been thinking about it a lot this year, and so the rest of my remarks are sort of about that. We are now living in a Tivoli without Margaret Lemon, without Claude Potts. We must be glad that exactly 2 years ago tonight, she was sitting right there in 2017. We surprised Margaret with the Citizen of the Year. And Jackie Zacco helped because she snuck her in here and got her hair done that day, and Margaret had no idea. We were also able to honor Claude Potts while he was still with us, dedicating this stretch of Broadway Claude Potts' Way, and he helped cut the ribbon himself. We've lost others recently from that earlier generation: Charlie Kuhn, Barry Kolbinski, Mayor Ed Mead. All of these people in their generation works to maintain and perpetuate a community which has come to us. Claude and Margaret and people like them were humble, decent, hardworking, and committed to their community. When I was 6, 7, 8 years old and bobbing for apples at the old Harris Smith post here, And we don't get to borrow for apples with the kids anymore. That was like another era of, share the germs and stuff. Made us strong, I don't know, it's still here. Margaret Lemon was there overseeing the kids. I mean, that's literally the first time I saw Margaret, I was like coming up with an apple in my mouth. Or crying because I didn't, more like that. And Claude Potts was driving buses for the Tivoli School District, like the buses that Mark and I were riding there. Through the narrow and short seeing eyes of childhood, I had to take all that for granted. Grown-ups are just there, they just do things for kids, and the Halloween costume contest and the egg hunts and the wreck, they just happen, But later, now that I'm an adult, and through the eyes of experience, and I'm also the mayor, and I know just how much work goes into an egg hunt or the Tivoli Rec program, I have such a deep appreciation for people like Margaret and Claude and all the older generation who did those things for their fellow Tivolians and for little kids in the village, They gave their time and they gave themselves to their fellow villagers, and this is very humbling and it's wonderfully instructive. Now we have lost Margaret, Claude, and others, and while we were lucky to thank them and honor them while they were still with us, we could not and we cannot repay them. They and their generation gave us this wonderful Tivoli worth protecting and nurturing. So what does that tell us? This is where it's instructive, because I think it's obvious that our task, our duty, is to take our turn at preserving and perpetuating the community through our generation to the next. As they left us this wonderful, charming, and authentic village, we are going to use our time to keep it that way and leave it that way for those who are coming up and coming after. A living, yes. Okay. A living community like Tivoli is a book. It's a story. And as time turns the pages, while the characters come and go, and the plot weaves along, the theme of the story remains the same: community. I believe Tivoli's story of community is its greatest strength. It is what sets us apart. We must protect that community. We must nurture it and grow it. And we must and we will continue to pass it on. Thank you very much.